Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast, where we explore the mindset, skill set, and habit set of leadership communication. Using these tips, techniques, and tactics, you'll be able to talk like a leader to build better relationships and get more done. Your host is Guy Harris, who has more than 20 years of combined professional and military experience in consulting, coaching, and training in areas like team and interaction dynamics, communication strategies and tactics, as well as emotional intelligence. Take it away, Guy.
Hi, this is Guy Harris. Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast. This week's episode continues a series of episodes inspired by the Advent calendar. And as I record this episode, it is the week following the second Sunday of Advent, and the theme is love. So this week's episode is about love in leadership. Now, frankly, the idea to do this series hit me after Advent had begun. So that means that the recording dates are happening in the week of Advent associated with the theme, and the release date is the week after the week of the Advent calendar, all the way through. And even though the release doesn't coincide with the actual Advent week in the year of 2020, I'm hoping that the episodes are more or less in the vein of a timeless kind of theme, and it won't really matter when they are released as time goes on. It's also true that this series is really more about mindset than it is about skill set. The things I'm talking about in this 4-episode series is more about the way we think about leadership than really what we specifically do in leadership. So you probably won't hear too much in the way of specific communication techniques. It's really more mindset than skill set. And I think I've said this before in other podcast episodes that I believe that if you get the mindset right, the skill set doesn't matter quite as much. I think skills are good, and I think learning techniques can be powerful, and learning different ways to do things is a really important thing to do in order to build your ability to communicate effectively and to be an effective leader. I am suggesting, though, that mindset is more important than skill set. So I'm spending a few weeks focusing primarily on that. One of the things I've learned in my leadership journey and in working with clients, classroom participants, people who participate in webinars, different interactions with people in the leadership training and development world, is that leadership is often, I won't say always, but often viewed through the lens of getting things done and making things happen and holding people accountable, making people do what they're supposed to do, confronting challenges, making decisions, etc. The list, frankly, is quite long. Because leadership is a complex thing, it's not just one set of skills. It's a combined set of skills from many disciplines. And I acknowledge that all the things I just mentioned, making things happen, holding people accountable, making sure people do what they're supposed to do, I agree that all of those things are at times part of a leader's responsibility. I would argue, though, that they are the smaller and less important things. And that if you find yourself frequently needing to make things happen or hold people accountable or make sure people are doing what they're supposed to do, you might be missing the more important things. The things that go before holding people accountable. The things that create the environment where people make things happen and do what they are supposed to do without you making them do it. Now, making people do things and holding them accountable are more about forcing or pushing people. And if those are the main things in leadership, they reveal a mindset of controlling people rather than trying to influence people. Reminds me a bit of a Dwight Eisenhower quote. You do not lead by hitting people over the head. That's assault, not leadership. So in the context of this week's episode, the idea of love and leadership, I'll share a quote from Vince Lombardi. He said, I don't necessarily have to like my players and associates, but as their leader, I must love them. Love is loyalty. Love is teamwork. Love respects the dignity of the individual. This is the strength of any organization. As much as leadership is not about beating people up, it's also not about false flattery or praise. So we're not talking about a romantic or gushy kind of love. We're not talking about being falsely positive. We're not talking about creating kumbaya, touchy-feely moments. We're looking at a type of love evidenced by serving our teams, what is commonly referred to as servant leadership. The concept of servant leadership isn't really a new idea. It's been talked about for thousands of years in different faith and philosophical circles. Now, Robert Greenleaf is often referred to as the person who made the idea. Modern, though. Now, Robert Greenleaf was born in 1904 in Terre Haute, Indiana. He worked at AT&T for, 38 years. He was the director of management development. He created the first corporate assessment center. He was among the first corporate leaders, at least in the U.S., to promote women and black people to non-menial type positions, to positions of importance. He eventually became a very well-respected leadership author, consultant, and teacher. He founded the Greenleaf Center. You can learn more about them at greenleaf.org. And here's what he said. He said that the difference between being a servant leader and being, I guess you call it a bossy leader, is that the difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant first to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are being served. The best test, and difficult to administer, is do those served grow as persons? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? And what is the effect on the least privileged in society? Will they benefit or at least not be further deprived? Now, that was said in the 1960s and probably reflects a little bit of the language of the time. Let's bring that forward a little bit and say that basically what we're talking about today, the idea of love and leadership, is the idea of serving our team, serving our community, serving our organization in a way that helps the team, the community, and the organization get better. It's less about making things happen and more about serving the team so the team can make things happen. I'll be sure I'm really, really clear. I am not saying that holding people accountable is not important. I am not saying that successful skills in terms of how to convey difficult ideas or to confront situations or resolve conflict are unimportant skills to learn. I believe they are important skills to learn. I believe leaders do have to confront difficult situations. I believe leaders do need to hold people accountable when the time is right. I do believe that sometimes leaders have to make people do things they don't want to do. I just think that should be the minority of the thing we do, not the main thing we do. The main thing we should do as leaders is to work on serving our teams and finding ways to help them learn, grow, and develop. Finding ways to remove the obstacles they face. Finding ways to understand the challenges they face in getting the work done and be there to help them get the challenges out of the way. You may not remove every barrier. You can be part of the process of removing barriers, though. You can view your team members as people to love and serve rather than people who are tools in your desire to get things done. Now, the likelihood that you view people as a tool, if you're listening to this podcast, is frankly, I think, pretty low. So maybe this is more of a reminder than really a new idea. It's a reminder that our goal as a leader is to serve our team, and in that service, we express our love. Remember, not a kumbaya, gushy kind of love. It's about serving our teams and helping them get better. As Peter Drucker said, leadership is not magnetic personality. That can just as well be a glib tongue. It is not making friends and influencing people. That is flattery. Leadership is lifting a person's vision to higher heights, the raising of a person's performance to a higher standard, the building of a personality beyond its normal limitations. It is, in effect, in the context of this episode, loving the person enough to help them get better. If you can do that, you can talk like a leader. This has been the Talk Like a Leader podcast. You can listen to this show every week wherever you get your podcast. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Guy Harris, and thanks for listening.